Can you guys tell looking at that sheet who's going first, or you want me to? I don't think we have an index of. Oh, it's SPLICE. Okay, great. Let's hear it. I'm starting the timer.
SPLICE or SPLICE?
Wait, isn't it for each?
First would be index of. Do we have an index of?
Oh, an actual order of.
Yeah. Do we have SPLICE, or I don't think we have SPLICE. I think SPLICE is the first one we have.
We do have an index of. It's Jilmar, Juan, and Michael.
Oh my gosh, I missed that. Okay, they must have changed. Go. Let's hear index of. Sorry, guys. If someone's talking, they're unmuted. Or sorry, they are muted.
I don't see them in Zoom. I don't think they're here yet.
Oh man, 19. Okay.
Fashionably late.
Guess so. We're gonna go past them though. We're gonna move on, and they'll have to jump in next. So who would be our next group?
So I think.
Are you guys SPLICE?
We're SPLICE.
Let's hear some splicing. Let me reset my timer for you guys. Okay,
this is going to be difficult for the time.
4 minutes?
Okay, I share my screen.
Perfect.
So, first of all, what does SPLICE do? So, a SPLICE is actually quite complex because it takes an array, you give him a start index, then you give him a number, which means how many elements after that start number should be deleted, and then you give him elements or arguments telling him that should be inserted at the start number. So start number and then following them, just making space. Like for example, we have here at the beginning, if we're calling SPLICE, then we're starting at index 3, then we're deleting three elements, and we're going to insert hi and hello at index 3 and 4. And the other stuff is just have to move up to the right. And if you want to save it in a variable, the SPLICE, it is equal the deleted element. Like in our case, let's see at case 1, we deleted after index 3 elements, meaning we had an array from 1 to 10. And we see here in my console that we took out 4, 5, and 6, so equals 3 elements, and then inserted starting at element 3 or index 3, hi and hello. So that's basically how it works. So if we want to look into the code base for sure.
It's monstrous.
It's a real monster because we were really detail loving, and we did everything that MDN said, every special case and so on, but we just have time for going really over the basic. And that means if we first we loop over the array, starting with the start point or with the start index, and then we are going to the erasing. That's actually a count, but previously we transformed it to an index. So meaning we're taking these elements and push them into a new array called result, which we have to give out if it want to be saved as a variable. Then in the next step, we delete this element. What we receive is kind of like this. We receive an array where we have a lot of undefined elements in the middle because they were just erased. So now we have to cope with this. And this is done by looping over this new array and counting for every undefined. Pushing this into a new array so that we have the index of this array or of all the undefineds. What happens then is we are moving all the stuff that is right of the undefineds and moving them to the left, so that we're actually putting all these undefineds on the right side. Then, which is really a trick, at the beginning we thought, okay, loop over it and hit pop as many times as we have undefineds at the end because we counted them previously. But Sarah had the idea, which I didn't know, but it really works, that you can reassign the array length and then it cuts everything on the right. Like when we have an array length of 10 and we take -5, then we have just an array from 1 till 5, for example, because the other 5 elements are cutted. That's good to know. So, but then we want to insert our elements after our start point. So we just go into our array, and we have to make some space. So this is a special case if somebody don't delete elements or just not define the delete count. So we keep that outside, but we go into what is happening when we just want to insert some arguments. And actually, we are counting the arguments. How many arguments do we have? In our case, so it was just asked for 1 element, but we made it that infinite elements can be inserted.
We didn't see it until after we'd already done it.
Yeah, that's we work with the arguments, which gives you an array of all the arguments given to the function in an array. So meaning we are taking the length of this and subtracting 4, because the first three places are are reserved for our array, because we have no dot function for the start, for the delete, and for the delete count. So we are starting at the 4th index. So then we are going over the array, and we are moving every element to the right, so that actually we are making space again, so it looks like this again. So we are having undefineds in the middle again, because we moved the stuff to the right again. And what we're then doing in this part, that we're just pushing that we're just inserting our arguments at these undefined places. So actually we are pushing we're putting our hi here our hello, and here, for example, some names and so on. And in the end, it looks like we're looking in the console. We wanted to subtract 3 elements from start 3, or from start index 3, which were here. So that was 4, 5, and 6, and inserted the 2 arguments hi and hello. So we have a line of 1, 2, 3, hi, hello, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's our original array. So how it looks after our splice. And if we set a variable equals our splice, it would be equals 4, 5, and 6, because these are the elements we have erased. So if we got enough time, I don't know.
We're over time. I do have a question for you guys. There's 6 groups to present. I feel like we're gonna want more time, maybe for Q&As. So what if we do like 3 presentations today and 3 on Monday? Like, thumbs in the chat. Are you guys into that, or should we hammer through and keep people to a strict timeline?
I'm into that plan, but I can't make Monday or Tuesday, so that would mean my group has to go today, definitely. Okay,
we'll have you go. What did you guys do? Reduce?
Yeah.
Let's try to get like each to go first then. Let's get each and then you. So maybe index of, if you guys are cool, possibly to defer till Monday. Okay, so let's get each moving, and then we'll do you guys, George, reduce.
Thanks for working with me.
Oh, no problem. Who's our each team? I know we had one, unless I misread this. Chris, Lakita, Scott.
Yeah, it's us. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
So in our each, we declared my each function and assigned it a collection parameter and a callback function. And after that, we test whether or not our collection object was an array. And if it was true, we iterate through our collection, and we invoked our callback function and passed it our current value at our collection index, our index number, and our collection array. So if it was a case that our collection was not an array, assuming that it was an object, we executed like we created a key to loop through each property in our collection object, and we invoked the callback function and passed it each key value at our collection object, our key property, and our collection object.
Yeah, so then what for each does is it executes a callback function once for each index, whether that in the case of array will be each index, and then if in the case of an object for each key or each property. So we created a test environment just below that where we created an array with 1, 2, and 3 in the index numbers 0, 1, and 2. Then we created an object, and then we created a callback function to test this out, which just is going to log out whatever arguments we pass in there. So in the case of, so when we invoke this myEach function on line 26, we pass in our test object and our callback function, values log, and you go ahead and try to, there you go. So once we pop this into Node and invoke this, you can see that the value gets printed first as we put it in on the callback function on line 23. And then the actual key index where it's at, and then the entire array or object.
Awesome. Any questions for these guys? Did anybody do anything drastically different in their implementation? Cool.
I have a question. I guess a kind of a general question is a string ever considered a collection? Like, would you ever need to use each on a string? Have you ever seen that before? Or am I just making that up?
I haven't. I'll defer to Nissa.
I guess that was a question from Nissa.
Oh, yeah. So strings under the hood behave a lot like arrays, and I think you could actually pass a string in because a string has a .length property, and you could iterate through it with a for loop.
So, like, if you wanted to have a string included in a code that looks like this, would you have to, like, because right now, if it's saying it's an array, it'll do the first part, but otherwise it's going to say var key in collection. So that wouldn't work because key, you can't do keys in strings, right? So you'd have to do some sort of operation to handle it first.
Actually, you can keep it as it is. You could use the for in loop with arrays as well, right? The key in an array just so happens to be a number because we know that arrays are objects. That it would the for in loop though doesn't guarantee order, so we kind of lose that awesomeness about arrays if we iterate through our array with a for in loop. A for in loop also picks up not just the numerical properties out of arrays. If we added like a random property to our array, as opposed to saying like, hey, array at position 5, I want you to be equal to apple. We could say, hey, array at position apple, I want you to be equal to banana. If I iterated over my array with a for with semicolons loop, I said like, show me everything that's in array, for with semicolons loop, I would never find out that I had this key apple that was equal to banana. But if I iterated through my array with a for in loop, I would get that property back. I would get, hey, you have this random property, it's called apple in your array, and its value is actually banana.
So Nissa, I don't know if you saw, but Scott went ahead and tested this out in the screen share, and he created var test string on 21, and then just passed it into our myEach on 27. And you see at the bottom in Node that it's just going to give you the, I guess exactly what you're asking for. So it's going to give you the value of index 0 of the string, then 0, and then the entire thing.
Yeah.
I have an idea to easily fix it. If you have in your if conditional and you're checking for an array, you could say also just an OR, like the 2 pipes, and write if it's a string, so type of collection, and then double equal string in a string, or with quotation marks. Then it also works for a string and just loops over the string.
So either way, like maybe if you did a string, you might get some other like random string properties that would come up in a for in loop. Remember one thing about JavaScript is like it's implemented a little differently in every browser and in every environment. So the way Node might be implementing like, hey, this is a for in loop. When I'm iterating over a string, I'm going to give you these properties back, just the numbered ones or whatnot. But it would be possible that in a for in loop, when you pass a string or an array into a for in loop, like you would get a lot of other value properties that are like kind of hidden that aren't necessarily important to you, but are still there back. If that wasn't too confusing. But yeah, that'd be a great way to clarify for sure. Like, hey, if I have a string, I just want to use a for with semicolons loop. I don't want to use a for in loop if I have a string. Cool. Great job. Good question. That was interesting. And Scott, ahead of me, of course, already. Like I'd already run the whole test suite here by the time I got around to the answer. All right. You guys are still on budget and under time. Good work. A is reduced. You guys ready?
Yeah, we're ready. Let's see. Just gonna share screen here to desktop too. Can you guys see?
Yeah, I like how you made the font bigger. Nice job.
Oh yeah, I'm just gonna make this a lot easier. So what reduce does is that it takes an array and it reduces down to a single value. And so I just made this function here. It takes an array, and then this iterative function is gonna be our callback when we assign our starting value. And then we have a starting value here as well. So what if we like don't assign a starting value in the first place? So kind of like made a variable undefined start. Like if nothing's there, then it's gonna be undefined, like as of right here. So in the case of we're starting at this iteration and our starting value is undefined, then we assign the starting value as the very first element of whatever the array is. Like, let's say array of 1, 2, 3, 4, like the value is going to be 1. And after like we iterate the first value, then we keep going, then we use this iterative function. Now this iterative function could be anything. Like we usually accumulate the value, but it could be many things, like we'll go later on. But this iterative function takes in like a starting value and then a current value, an index, and an array. But we only care about these two, the starting value and the current value. And then this is our fancy ternary operator. Oh, like right here, yeah. And then it just keeps looping on and on until it stops iterating the array. And then use this reduce, console log, and then it comes out 10 because it adds on like 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. But more specifically, it's more like 1 plus 2 is 3. And then it assigns 3 to the starting value. And it's 3 plus 3. Then it's 4. No, wait, 6. And then 6 plus 4 is 10. What if we assign like a starting value of, let's say, I don't know, 10. Then it's 10 plus 1 is 11. 11 plus 2 is 13, and so on. And it comes out 20. You can put whatever value you want, and that's what reduce does. And then we have this crazy example here.
So I was presenting this part, right, Raymond?
Yeah, you're going to present this.
So one of the cool things about reduce, we were trying to figure out examples of how to use reduce without numbers. And so this is a great example of how you can use reduce on like non-traditional start values. And so in most cases, like when Raymond said when he's first opened up, he said reduce takes an array and reduces it and prints out a single value at the end. But sometimes instead of reducing, even though it's called reduce, your start value can end up growing. And so in this case here, you can see that our start value is starting as an empty object on line 50. And as the reduce function goes through, it's going to like add to that object, and at the end we're going to have this object that's been reduced, but in a way it's been grown. And so this function here is the way to take inventory. So you can see that we've got this variable fruits, and we've got apples, 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 banana, orange, orange, kiwi, kiwi, kiwi. And it's going to take that array of products, and it's going to reduce that array of products. And our callback function is going to take the the product object, which is our start value. It's initially set to be empty, and it's going to add in the values of this array. So it's going to add an apple. But it's not going to, if apple already exists in the product object, it's just going to increment the value associated with that key. So in the case of apple, it's going to add apple, and then it's going to go to the next one, and it's going to add 1 to apple. So we'll have 2 apples, and then 3 apples, and then bananas. And so when you call take inventory in fruits, Raymond, it's going to print us this object with 3 apples, 1 banana, 2 oranges, and 4 kiwis, because that's what we have in our array up there. And so the whole way along, instead of reducing down instead of working with a big array and reducing it down to a single value, we started with an empty object and like grew it up into this this inventory.
That last console log you added is pretty cool, because we kind of get to see what's happening to the accumulator the whole time, right? How it's changing, how it's growing.
Right, and it only does it like, so cleanly, like apples 1, 2, 3, and then bananas 1, and then bananas, apples, bananas, orange, and in order, because of the order of our array. It happens to be apples, 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 bananas. But if you mixed up that array, it would be kind of all over the place, because it just works sequentially through the array.
Great example. Questions for the reduce group? Awesome. If you guys could all take your code snippets and put them into Slack as a snippet, so you have to hit that little plus sign so it specifically keeps it formatted as code. I think it'd be cool for other people to be able to like poke around a little bit and see how other people implemented their solutions. I know also you guys can go to Flubits, right? You can jump in other people's Flubits links and have a look around that way as well, but maybe Slack's going to be easier for us to see. I know we're only halfway done the presentations. I can't wait to see the rest on Monday, but I really hope that this experience of rewriting underscore has kind of shown you guys like kind of how much you can do with the tools that you've accumulated over the last 3 weeks. These complex things are built up of small parts. Programming is all about breaking down really complex problems into small problems, either that you can solve and you know how to solve, or you've made it a manageable piece where you now know part of it that you don't know. So you can either do some research and figure out, okay, well, how do I do this little part of it? Or, ask somebody else. Be like, I'm stuck with this piece. Like, I know these pieces, but I don't know this, which is just as valuable. Just being able to look at something that you might have initially said, like, WTF, like, there's no way. Now kind of be like, all right, well, let me get started. Like, I know what I want to do. I just have to decide how to do it. So super impressive work. Super proud of you guys. Really great job. We are going to just do a quick demo in 1 second of how to do like a little more of this kind of underscore practice that you guys can do on your own over the weekend with like a testing framework. Maybe you guys would be like, why didn't we do this instead of what we just did? And the reason is that I sometimes think testing frameworks can set you up to just look for the test to pass without really thinking of like, why, what is happening and why is it happening? So coding it out without the like kind of handrail of a testing framework makes you really like think, I feel like it makes you really think deeply about what's going on. That said, what we're going to have you guys, not assign to you guys, but give you the option of doing, it does have a testing framework. So that might help when you're working solo and you don't have, I don't know, maybe someone to ask. It'll give you a little more tips of like, when is it working? When is it not working? It'll build in some cases to some arrays and objects to run through your code for you. Last thing before we jump into that, next week for at least 3 days, 2.5 days, maybe 3.5 days, you guys are going to be in groups again, 4 or 5, building a pretty sizable group project. So start thinking of like an idea that you would want to take on. We're going to do like another Git lecture on Monday or Tuesday so that we can show you some techniques for working with a group when there's like a lot of hands in a repo, and different people are updating different parts of it. So we'll do a little bit of that on Monday and Tuesday. Monday, we're going to talk about Ajax and JSON so that you can incorporate information from other websites in your group projects. And that, in fact, will be like the only requirement of your group project is that you use at least one external API. So that'll pay attention on Monday. You'll use that in your group projects, but if over the weekend you're Googling around, Google for like JavaScript, they're usually called like SDKs, like software developer kits. Like almost every website, you can get all kinds of information easily via JavaScript over the web. So if there's some data set you think would be cool to use in a project, like start kind of poking around, throwing some ideas against the wall, see what sticks. And
we went back and used an open movie database, OMDB, to help do our little movie web store hackathon thing.
Yeah. Awesome.
And that was pretty cool. My group hacked that out last night, and it was really cool.
Oh, awesome. So there you go. There's all kinds of like quirky information, and just like some of it's just like super data. Like look around, because like our last hackathon, our first one, the more tables that you guys bring to the table, like the better the brainstorming works. Better to have too many ideas and filter them than be like staring at each other with like, we have no idea. Okay, on that note, you're gonna be in bigger groups, and we're gonna give you the opportunity to like kind of pick who you might want to work with. So if you can DM Zan and I, maybe like 3 people that you would like ideally like to work with, we can start making groups. If there is like 4 of you that are just like, holy cow, we have this idea, we want to work together, like all 4 of us are in on, we want to build this together, then even better, just let us know. We'll try to make those groups happen. Since we want to try to accommodate if you guys have groups that you would like to be part of. Okay, I'm almost 12 o'clock, so I'm going to jump into this secondary presentation. If anybody has to leave, that's totally fine. It's still going to be recorded and put up on the YouTube link. Will be in useful links. But any questions? Okay, let's get on to this part. So you guys probably noticed here in the curriculum, the very bottom of advanced functions, there's this thing that says re-implementing underscore. If you click on it, okay, we tried them all out. We'll start rebuilding from scratch. Download the following HTML document. So if you click on it, I usually do Option Command U to show the whole source. Select it all, copy it. You guys following along, or you want me to go slow enough so everybody has time to do this? Okay. PBBB, okay, cool. So, see you later, Scott. So when you get here to this point and you just have all this copy pasted, and that shortcut again was Option Command U is like view source. You can see it up here as well. Where is it? View developer, view source, Command Option U is what I clicked. I'm already there, so it doesn't let me do it again. Okay, then you're gonna go to Sublime. Oh, I actually already pasted it in. For some reason I named it for each. Let me see if this one's blank. It is. Okay, I'm gonna paste it in, the whole thing. Okay, then I'm gonna save it. I'll call it under.html. I'm gonna save it to my desktop. Save it to rp18. Save. Give me a thumbs in the chat if you want more time to get to this point. Okay, so I'm going to assume that everybody who is following along is good to go. Cool, so now I have this whole thing I just copy pasted from that page on the internet. So it has the directions here still. Open your local copy in your browser and check the test results in your console. So open a browser. By the way, I had to save that as an HTML doc, not as a JavaScript file. So here, it looks really similar here, but this is my local copy. Open my developer tools. And they see I have these like red failing tests. Okay, this is like where the testing suite lives for this thing. So I have to now go back to Sublime. And this is wherever you see these, like identity, right? So back in Chrome, it had the name of the test here, identity. That's what's failing. Okay, so undefined is not equal to 1. That's what it's expecting. There's probably some more information here. Okay, we won't do that right now. So I have to fix this. I have to make this test pass. Who can type in the chat or tell me, like, what do I do here? I need a function that returns exactly what I passed into it. Return what? val. Got it. So I type that in, I save it. I go back here to my Chrome page, refresh it, and all my tests are passing. Okay, when they pass, it just doesn't have any errors. First was done for us, right? First function is implemented for you. Definitely look at how it's implemented. Make sure you understand, like if I deleted this, like make sure you could redo that and make it pass. Oops. Okay, so you'll notice we pretend we passed last. Well, there's nothing showing for each or index of or filter, reject, unique, map, pluck. None of these have tests showing. The reason being is that when you get there and you want more tests to show, you have to scroll all the way bottom. Oops, I broke something here. There we go. Back in action. Okay. So this part here is like the actual functions that you're writing at the top of this file. You scroll down until you're done with those, every, sum, extend. Okay, here you see this test framework. This you're not going to modify. This is just some stuff that sets it up so that your tests will run. Then we're going to get down further and it says tests. So here's identity, right? If your tests are failing, like for instance, this test is failing last. If I click on that down arrow, it's going to give me like the call stack and tell me like, this is what I tried to do and this is why I failed. So I can see that I'm getting line numbers. It's telling me it's coming from this file under.html at line number, so 277, that was called by 313, 270. So I want to see 277. If I click on it here in the Chrome console, it's actually going to open it up as a source way up here, which is kind of like a little trickier to read. So I would say, hey, look at those line numbers. Go back, find line 277. No, it wasn't 277. It must have been the one that called it. Some of it is going to redirect into like your test framework, and you really want something like in the actual test number. So we want something probably like in the 300s. Probably this one, 313. Okay, 313. It says it expected it to be equal, that if I had last implemented correctly, I should have been able to pass this into it, 1, 2, 3, and it should have returned 3. But somehow my implementation of last currently like isn't working, right? It's saying like undefined. I'm returning undefined, and it is not equal to 3, and it expected 3, and I'm giving it undefined. So what that could do for you is like you can look at that and be like, well, what are they passing my function, and why is it failing, right? Like here we can see they passed it 2 parameters. They passed it that array, but then they passed it a 2. And they're expecting this to come back. So if you're getting failing tests and you're writing your functions and you're just like, what? Why? I don't get it. Like follow the stack trace and look for the function that's being called inside the actual tests. Okay. So like I was saying before, there are no tests showing for each or index of. The reason being is that it's just to like not clutter your screen. So we can see here, right, for identity, it says describe. If I put an X here, it's no longer going to show that test. Oops, right? Now identity is gone. It kind of like frees up a little screen real estate. So that's what they have done for you down here. Each currently has that X in front of it. If I take that X off and I save it and I refresh this page, then I'm going to see all my failing each tests. Okay. So as the workflow of going through this is just picking a new function, right? We did identity together. First is done for us. Okay, then it was like blah, blah. You would do last. You would save it. Come back to your Chrome console. You would refresh your tests with your, obviously you can have your console take up basically your whole page because there's nothing on the page. And see what tests you're passing. See what tests you're failing. Any questions? Okay, sounds like crickets. This isn't an assignment. This isn't a required assignment by any means. So just it's available to you if you want another chance to like go through some of the functions we did and also some new ones. Get after it. You can also obviously like do this multiple times. You could just re-download it in a new file and try your hand at it again if you felt like the first time through you weren't sure you got it. So give it